Can we make 6 gluten-free meals from Walmart on a $5 budget? Today we're going to do just that. Thank you Purple Rose Goldfish for suggesting we do a gluten-free option of this $5 challenge. I got my brown rice, mashed potatoes, mild sausage, 2 jalapeno peppers, 1 ear of corn on the cob, and 1 tomato. And the only freebies we'll be using is a little bit of oil and some salt. The first thing we're going to be doing is making up all of our brown rice. Now this one bag is 16 ounces. You end up getting about a little over 2 cups in the end. So I made a little over 2 cups of brown rice. I went ahead and rinsed the rice off, then added in all of the water, and I like to add a little bit of salt in. That way the rice is already a little bit salted as it's cooking, and it kind of soaks into each of the kernels, so you don't have to worry about as much seasoning afterwards. I wanted to cut down a little bit on the amount of freebies I had in this one. I know the last $5 challenge I used a lot of freebies, and so this one I just wanted to just kind of keep it as simple as I could, and that's why we ended up going with this sausage, which has 6 servings in it and also has a lot of natural seasonings and also a lot of natural or not so natural sodium in it, so some salt, and that will help us to cut down on the amount of seasonings and things we have to add later on. I went ahead and cut open that chub of sausage, and we divided it up into 6 different chunks as you saw, and then we went ahead and shucked the corn and then cut everything off of the husk. Don't forget to scrape the ear of corn because that has a lot of good corn juice in it that will help flavor things later. Then we chopped up our tomato. We're doing some mise en place this time, just prepping everything. Now I'm wearing gloves. When you work with jalapenos, it's helpful to wear gloves. Or if you don't have gloves, stick your hand in a plastic bag. It'll be a little bulky and chunky and hard to work with, but it will make it a lot easier later on when you don't have to deal with the burns, the chemical burns that happen when you handle jalapenos, or at least when I do. So I chopped a few of these into little rounds, not just into the cubes, because I wanted a little bit of garnish for several of the dishes. And then I also finely chopped about a tablespoon of the jalapenos. If you're wanting to make the appearance of abundance when you are on a tight budget, the more colors you can incorporate into your meals, the better. So you saw we had red tomato, green jalapeno, and yellow corn. That really makes the meals pop and also makes it feel like we are living large because we have so much variety in our meal options and the colors that we use in our meals. Exact measurements for each of these recipes is going to be in our description box as usual. And with this recipe, I decided I was going to make just slightly hydrated potatoes because I wanted to see if I could rehydrate them enough so that they were able to be sliced as if you actually had a potato and sliced it. So I just added a little bit of boiling water and rehydrated it and then patted it down in that plate like you saw, and then I went ahead and put it in the freezer and got to work on the sausage and corn, which I just cooked together. Now as you could see, after we took it out of the freezer, it only set for about 30 minutes. It was easy to cut and slice and turned into little squares, so it looked very similar to as if we actually had a potato, which we could have had a potato, but we wouldn't have had all the seasonings that came in this little pre-made packet. And we also probably would have had to spend a little more time trying to make it into all the meals we wanted to make. And I also checked the price comparisons. We would not have gotten as much out of one potato, and the price would have been very similar to this packet of potatoes, which claims it serves 4. I feel like it actually serves closer to 3, but that's just me. I will show you later what I am talking about because I made one of the meals and I made it with the serving suggestion of potatoes, and I felt like it was rather small. So here is our finished dish. This is a delicious potato sausage corn hash, and I have a whole cup of brown rice on the side to serve with it. we started on our next dish, which I just put the sausage chunk in the pan, added in some of the green jalapenos, and then we're gonna get to work on just making some mashed potatoes. We're just topping the sausage or the mashed potatoes with the sausage mixture. So this one's probably a pretty simple and easy to throw together meal, but I did want to show you this is what a serving size actually looks like after you finish making it. Which, after making this and seeing how small the serving size was, I went ahead and I set aside the amount I would have made to make a whole nother batch of potatoes. So you would have double the amount of potatoes pictured here. But I did want to give this as an example that sometimes something says it serves a certain number of people and it just doesn't make that much. This made kind of a small amount, but it's perfect if you're only wanting a little bit to eat, like a little snack or a smaller meal. But I would say if you were actually wanting to make that your meal, then you would definitely need to make a little more mashed potatoes, at least double that recipe. Now we're getting to work on our next recipe. This one's going to be smashed sausage rounds over brown rice. We're going to have fresh tomato and jalapeno corn salsa on the side, or a faux salsa. So I went ahead and covered that little cup of corn in the microwave. You need to use a kind of a big pan because the corn, as it steams, kind of pops around and it can pop your plate or your pan right off there. So a large plate or putting it in a bowl and covering it with a paper towel or two would probably help you out. Then I added in my finely minced jalapenos and my tomatoes, and now I'm putting my sausage rounds on top of a whole cup of rice again. This made a lot of rice. After you finish cooking 2 cups of rice, it makes closer to about probably 4 cups of brown rice after it's finished cooking. And I like the texture of the brown rice, actually. The white rice I like too, but I haven't had brown rice as much, and so it's really a nice fun change of pace, and it's really healthy for you. Now we're going to make a little bit of a gluten-free roti, is what I'm gonna probably call it at the end, because I think roti, unless I'm wrong, doesn't use a lot of yeast or anything that helps it rise. So it helps that if you plug in your blender. So I went ahead and blended up some of the brown rice with water, and it made kind of a paste. And then I made some mashed potatoes and mixed that in as well to add a little more of that flavor, because the mashed potatoes in this were actually really flavorful, and I wanted to thicken that paste up a little bit easier. And then I stuck it in my hot pan and just kind of smoothed it out as best as I could. I found it's a lot easier if you use anything like your hands. If your hands are wet, or the back of your spoon that is also wet, it doesn't stick as easily, but this is a very sticky mixture. I did not get a perfect round shape or anything like that, and it also kind of shrunk a little bit, but it tasted really good. That's what I'm getting to. It tasted really good, and as you can see, it made little bubbles in it, and I was very surprised at the texture that I got afterwards, as far as, how much it held up to things. It actually worked really well in scooping the rice stir fry that I made to go with this. So I added my sausage in, my brown rice, and my tomato, and then just kind of cooked all of that together. And the sausage had enough oil in it to really fry that rice up and make it a really delicious, flavorful rice dish. And then I just topped it with some jalapenos just to give that little pop of color that I love, and it tasted delicious. I actually ate this for dinner. It was so good. It's really good fresh too, because that roti is just perfect. It's crisp, but it's also soft inside, so the outside's still crisp. And if you don't know this trick, this is the trick for how you quickly and easily clean your blender. You put some water in, you close it, and you blend the water, and ta-da! You've got a clean blender, and you didn't even have to scrub it. This next recipe almost did not make it. It definitely didn't make it how I thought it was going to be. So I added in my meat, or my sausage, my jalapenos, and my rice, and mixed it all together. I got this mixture, which kind of was falling apart a little bit, but I was like, all right, fine. I rolled it into the mashed potato flakes to coat it. Then I put the oil that was actually left over from the sausage, and I went ahead and started frying them up. But then I started second guessing whether it was cooked. So I ended up just kind of stir frying it as a stir fried rice, and then I went ahead and I made up a little bit of our mashed potatoes again because we had enough to do so, and I added that stir fried rice, which the meat was now cooked. I didn't have to worry about it not being cooked, into the mixture, and I tried it all over again. So this one, it actually stuck together much better. Those mashed potatoes really helped everything to hold in place, and I rolled one up into a ball, and then I realized I really didn't enjoy rolling those balls around and trying to coat every single side in the pan and cook every single side and get them brown. So I wound up just kind of flattening them into basically rice nuggets, if that's a thing. And maybe it is now, sausage rice nuggets. I'm not sure if that's the word I should use for it, or if that's a appetizing word, but it was delicious. So I just, fried them up on either side. I flipped them when they were brown, and then I arranged them beautifully on this platter in a little circle, a little ring. And then I got to work on a sort of chutney for the center of it to kind of top each of the nuggets or dip the nuggets in. So I put some water, some tomatoes, and some corn, and a little bit of salt into my pan, and then I reduced it for about 10 minutes while I was stirring, kind of mashing everything together, because I wanted the flavors to kind of blend together and for it to thicken up. So I ended up with this kind of, I don't know if it's called a chutney, but I feel like that's what I should call it, as a chutney. So that's what I'm calling it. So then I put it into this dish, and I topped it with some of those jalapeno rounds again, just for looks and for a little color, and also a little spice on the side. And these were really good. I was impressed with them, and I would make them again, 10 out of 10. So I mean, sometimes the fails are really, fun to see that it comes together in the end, even though it wasn't working out how you thought originally. But next we went ahead and started making our final meal, which is going to be a stir fry. And I find stir fries tend to be a great last minute, end of the week meal, because you can just kind of throw everything all together and you wind up with a really delicious meal, and you've used all your ingredients, so you haven't wasted anything. Then I just topped this with a nice little arrangement of the jalapeno peppers, and we did not have any ingredients left. The only things we had left was salt and oil, which those were the ingredients that we had for free, so I would not expect to use all of those up. Now I've got a full week of meals for my work, and they're really filling and actually fairly healthy. Let me know if you get to try any of these. Thank you all for watching. I will see you in the next one.